Hi, my name is CJ Scott. This is my chapters 14 and 15, business law chapter summaries. So chapter 14 was on intellectual property and chapter 15 was on agencies, which is basically relationships between different parties when it comes down to contracts and then directly related to intellectual property. Um, Intellectual property, starting with chapter 14, intellectual property is really complicated to kind of grasp as a whole, to know that everything that's in this room right now, somebody has a patent on somehow, some way. Somebody has a device inside of each thing that's going to allow them and them alone to produce something without changes, obviously. But that was tough to grasp as a whole. Obviously, things are out there, but when it's put into those perspectives for you to understand, like it was in the video reaction this week, it can be complicated. Um, I do like a little bit how the book used some firsthand experiences to really kind of grasp the subject of the fact that somebody can own an idea. Um, Obviously, I knew that I was out there. I know how important it is, but you don't think about those things unless you're directly involved and related with them. Everybody has ideas out there, but it's protecting it through the law that's probably the most important thing beyond the idea. And I think a lot of people forget that. And it seems like it's a really complicated process. Beyond intellectual property, they have trademarks, um, trade dress, and then what am I missing here? Oh, trade secrets that discussed in the video, and then beyond that, even patents. And patents always seem to be pending. It seems like a lot of times when you look at something, it always says patent pending as of whatever year it might be. So going into kind of the details of chapter 14, it starts with intellectual property, which is laws protecting a property that is primarily a result of mental creativity rather than physical effort. So essentially an idea. Categorized as trademarks, patents, and trade secrets. Um, this is something that the chapter really kind of distinguished between something that I didn't really understand, and basically the different protection levels of trademarks, trade secrets, and then patents, and how important identifying which path you're going to take, and then trying to chase down a patent. The video reaction puts a huge influence um, on how important it seems that patents are in opposition to trademarks, trade secrets, but also how important it is alone to protect intellectual property. So a trademark is a distinct mark, word, design, picture, or arrangement used by the producer. Um, Basically, a protection so that if an idea were to be stolen, you can say, I utilized this right here. This is our trademark. Um, they must, to basically register and obtain a trademark, you need to submit a drawing of the mark and then indicate when it was first used and how it's going to be used. You have to register with the U.S. Patent Office. Um, Basically, it's a different type of protection other than a patent. To me, I would think most things are utilizing trademarks, even if they are utilizing different patents or trade secrets. I'm not entirely sure on that, but even something extremely simple, there's going to be a logo as a trademark over the product itself. Um, Types of marks protected under the Lanham Act: product trademarks, service marks, collective marks, and certification marks. So basically, um, everything that you can identify with a specific company or a specific idea, they protect it. Trade dress is the overall appearance and image of a product that has acquired secondary meaning. To me, I feel like this is really open for interpretation. I feel like a lot of people are trying to shoot loopholes through trade dress just simply because there's a lot of, to me, this is more of a counterfeit issue when it comes to trade dress. I think this is identifying where the errors are and how is this not directly related to our company. So I feel like I jumped a lot in chapter 14 because chapter 15 is just as important with his basically agencies, the relationships between different parties when it comes down to protecting, whether that be different copyright laws or protecting trade secrets, patents, or even simple relationships like employee-employer relationships. How are we going to identify the contract and how important is it to establish ground rules right from the start? So an agency is a relationship between two persons in which one acts on behalf of the other. The homework touched on this a little bit, and it seems like it's up for grabs, but in most situations, what it comes down to is a contract. Is the agency liable to make decisions for the person within this relationship? So, are you allowed to make those decisions? And it's something on the business and the law aspect of things that you have to look at right away. You have to understand, can this person speak on my behalf? Can this company speak on my behalf? Am I going to be liable for any kind of mistakes they may make or any decisions that they may make? Something you have to look into, and if you haven't looked into it, or if there's something that I guess entices you to question these type of relationships with your agency, with your company, whatever it may be, something you have to look into and then establish right away, because um, as in with the homework, it can get you into some trouble. Find out, is an agency able to answer or speak on my behalf with my consent? So there's employer-employee relationship. Agent who works for pay is subject to the control of the principal, may enter into contractual relationships on the latter's behalf. So basically, this is your company not being liable for you, but being able to protect you. Employer and independent contractor relationship. Uh, I dealt hand in hand with this, direct contact with this. My employer of 3 years, um, I had no idea that this had happened after the first year I worked. Um, he actually established me as an independent contractor um, when I was doing landscaping. It was extremely complicated when it came down to taxes because I thought I was a full-time employee, but he, um, I guess, basically put me into an independent contractor role. It made things really complicated, but it's something that you have under your belt, and it's a relationship that you have to work through and work with. It changes a lot, I can tell you that, being an independent contractor versus a full-time employee, especially when you're working over 3 years for one company and you're still considered an independent contractor. You're doing basically side work, I guess. In my employer's situation, it really messed with a lot of different things, not in a negative way whatsoever. At first, yes, it can be a little shocking, not relationship wise, but more or less, how are you going to handle money? How are you going to handle paychecks? Um, and then how can you establish yourself outside of that company when you've been, I guess, an independent contractor under a company that's you've been working for 3 years? Just something you have to establish right away, something that I should have handled better. Um, Agency by agreement. This was exactly what the homework was. Can an agency answer on my behalf? It's something you have to establish right away. And if it's established, all parties in an agreement should understand that the agency can answer on this person's behalf through contract. Um, this one is this chapter 15, is just something you have to really focus on. Um, and when it comes down to contracts, in any aspect of life, employee and employer, whatever it may be, it's something you have to address right away. It's something you have to understand because you don't want to be caught up in a situation like I was, where I was kind of shocked when taxes came around and I'm an independent contractor. Um, and you got to file as an independent contractor, and you didn't know you were an independent contractor. So this is just something you have to check with contracts, and it can be, from what I understand from the homework, it can be something as simple as a handshake or a court order that says, yes, this agency is qualified to answer on this person's behalf. Kind of dips into a little bit of the power of attorney. If somebody's willing to give up their decisions to somebody else, it's exactly the same thing as an agency that can answer on your behalf. Thank you.